Hello, everyone. If you can take your seats, we'll get started in just a minute. Wrap up those conversations. Great, great. All right. Good to see everyone tonight. Welcome to the 2025 St. Mary's College STEM Professional Development Workshop. This is our keynote address that kicks off of 2 days of professional development events for St. Mary's STEM students here on campus. I'm Dr. Catherine White. I'm a 2007 Chem and Math double major, a proud St. Mary's alumna, and I'm also president of the SMC STEM Professional Development Committee. Our committee was created in 2016 and was the brainchild of Aaron Shambaugh, a 2008 St. Mary's Chem and 2009 Notre Dame Chemical Engineering alum who's in the audience tonight. Hello. And so Erin started this group because she saw an urgent need that she identified when interviewing St. Mary's women for open positions in her company, GE. As an SMC alum herself, Erin knew that St. Mary's students were brilliant, talented researchers, and exceptionally hard workers. But she found that SMC students were underperforming in key components of the professional interview process. She knew that some STEM students at St. Mary's could do better, and importantly, she wanted to help them do better. And so Erin reached out to her former professors, Dr. Tony Barstis, who's also in the audience, and Dr. Joanne Snow, and they began brainstorming a way to address this performance gap that was identified among St. Mary's students. And so this is how the STEM Professional Development Committee was born. Today, the St. Mary's STEM Professional Development Committee is comprised of highly dedicated St. Mary's students, St. Mary's alumna, and St. Mary's faculty, all working together to develop professional development programming and curriculum tailored for students in STEM. Through our programming, SMC students receive career guidance, networking opportunities, resume feedback, interview feedback, and essential skills development. Our annual virtual and in-person professional development workshops feature real-world scenarios, hands-on training, iterative skill building, and importantly, one-on-one mentoring between students and SMC alum. And this helps students better prepare for the next stage of their careers. And our work revealing the hidden curriculum for success in a STEM career is really necessary for increasing the representation of women in STEM. Despite receiving over 50% of STEM bachelor's degrees, women still make up under 1/3, just 29% of the STEM workforce. So our mission is to empower women in STEM and ensure that St. Mary's students are among the leaders of the next generation of STEM superstars. Since 2017, we've had over 700 St. Mary's students participate in our events. How many of you in the audience have participated in one of our events in the past? Great, love it. And how many of you are participating in your first professional development event this weekend? Yes, you guys are gonna have so much fun tomorrow. And so former participants in the PDW have said these interactions and experiences cannot be taught in a class, but in some ways they are more useful than the skills we learn for our degrees. I can Google basics of interviewing or negotiating, but hearing from St. Mary's alumna was worth hours of research. It's great to be able to ask questions and get immediate answers from women who have been where we are now. And that's an important part of our programming, is the connection between STEM SMC alum and current STEM SMC students. And so every event we host brings these alum and students together on campus or virtually, and it's a unique component of our professional development programming. We've had over 100 SMC STEM alum participate and give back to the STEM community by participating in these events. And this year, I'm proud to say that we're hosting several alum this weekend who participated in the PDW events as students and are now on campus giving back. So this is just one example of how our group is building community over time. So we are really grateful to our year-round alumni volunteers and the many alumni here tonight and joining us online on the live stream. And so if the SMC alum in attendance can please stand up so that we can give you a little cheer. Woo! Lovely, thank you. And finally, the STEM professional development we do here at St. Mary's is special and it's also vital. If any alumni, friends, or family would like to support the PDW, I encourage you to consider designating your St. Mary's donation to our group. This can be done by indicating Professional Development Fund or the Snow Barstis Fund in any kind of donation to St. Mary's. Also, if you're an SMC alumna, we always welcome contributions of time and talent, so do consider, if you're watching at home, volunteering for an event in the future via our website. So now for the fun stuff. Tonight we kick off our professional development workshop with a keynote event. You'll first hear from our 2025 Early Career Awardee, Michelle Espinal, a 2016 math and 2017 civil engineering alum, who's now a construction engineer at SpaceX. And then after that, you'll hear the keynote talk this evening, which is given by our 2025 Shannon Executive Scholar and keynote speaker, Stacy Lynett, a math alum who is the Vice President of Information Technology at General Motors. And so following the keynote address, we'll have both speakers here to respond to questions from the audience. So now it's my pleasure to introduce our first speaker, the 2025 Early Career Awardee, Michelle Espinal. Michelle graduated from SMC in 2016 with a BS in math, and then in 2017 completed her BS in civil engineering from Notre Dame. Michelle is a construction engineer at SpaceX, where she leads multidisciplinary teams to deliver construction projects that directly support the company's goals, advancing SpaceX's mission to make humanity multiplanetary and transform its workspace into a world-class facility. Her career journey spans transportation design in the Midwest and overseeing construction engineering at McMurdo Station, Antarctica, one of the most remote locations in the world. Early in her career, she also volunteered with the nonprofit Bridges to Prosperity, helping local communities build suspended footbridges in Nicaragua and Rwanda. Please join me in welcoming Michelle to the stage.
All right. Hey, everyone. It's pretty exciting to be here. I haven't been here probably in like a few years, so it's great to see a lot of the professors and familiar faces here. I think it's, being invited here is just maybe reflecting a lot of my journey here at St. Mary's. I got here when I was 16 years old, so pretty young. It's a lot to put on, a 16-year-old to decide what you're gonna do with your career. And my journey began here at the English language school, actually. And that became a place in which I joined with a group of international students. And we came here with the intent to get better at speaking English and writing English. And that turned into meeting some of my mentors, some of them here in the audience, which helped me draft a career path. 5-year program here, Dr. Vardis in the audience. That was probably week 3, and we were already talking about what I was gonna do in 5 years. And some of my mentors here have just taught me how to navigate like college challenges throughout the years, and that was really meaningful to me. So St. Mary's became a place in which, I grew academically, but also at a deep personal level. We were talking about that I come from a country in which, we have a lot of gender challenges. So trying to find my voice and womanhood here on campus was something that I felt really comfortable doing because I was provided with the space to do so. I felt that our professors made it the case to allow us to speak freely and also engage in really meaningful dialogue. So that was really beneficial to me to nurture, the confidence that takes you to your career later on. So I'm really grateful for that. And during my time as a student here, there were multiple opportunities to volunteer and just engage with our community, which also kind of taught me ways in which I could navigate later my profession. I think growing up in Nicaragua, it's a country which lacks a lot of access to infrastructure that we take for granted here in the US. So I always had in the back of my mind that I wanted to pursue a career in which we could improve the built environment. So, and that being said, the reason is that to me, when you improve our built environment, that's at the core of empowering communities and also at the core of human connectivity and economic development. So I figured that it didn't really matter that I would have to follow like a linear path in order to explore what the different avenues within civil engineering were. And that took me through multiple journeys and locations that I'll speak about. So one of the opportunities that I've navigated as a college student was that I went back home. And I went to Nicaragua with NDC, which is Notre Dame Students Empowering Through Engineering Development. That's still active at Notre Dame. And we fundraised, we did the logistics, did the design for a suspended footbridge in the community of Amayito in Nicaragua. That's 5 hours away from my home. My parents stopped by. We got really along with the community. We met the mayor. It was like a whole thing. So to be fully engaged with a community that I know how much this meant to build alongside with them a bridge over a river that flooded yearly, it just kind of kept motivating me to find opportunities in which you could give back to your community while you were learning how to be a better engineer. So when I graduated, and started my job hunting, I wanted to find companies that in a way align with some of my values. So when I looked for companies that had corporate partnerships with Bridges to Prosperity, it kind of made it easy for me to know where to go. So I found this company called Parsons Corporation, and I started as a transportation engineer. So as a transportation engineer, did bridge design, highway design, and got really interested in urban planning. But at the same time, I knew they had a corporate partnership with Bridges to Prosperity. So I applied to go to Rwanda with the first cohort of all women's build that the company has done. So it was like a group of 5 people that were selected among another company. And I was chosen to go with them in similar experience in terms of the planning process and construction. We ended up building a suspended footbridge in the community of Rukarakara in Rwanda. It's a picture of the whole community celebrating at the end the construction of the bridge. And funny enough, I think like one of the things that I've noticed throughout my career is that even if my experiences have been different, they're interconnected in a way. It was in Rwanda where I met my manager in Antarctica. So you go from one place to the other. And while I was there, you get to meet people, you get to network and really hear about other opportunities that you wouldn't if, I guess, like you were only looking for opportunities that you're familiar with. So when I was there and I met her, it was probably within a year that I heard back and she invited me to join this opportunity to be a construction engineer in Antarctica. And just keep in mind that my background was in design. So it was like you were taking a plunge. Do I do it? Do I not do it? I'm comfortable in Chicago. Do I move? And you know what? It was going to be 6 months. So I did it. And I ended up going to Antarctica. Oh, I guess before that, this is a good video of, I guess how to, maybe? Oh, no. Let's see. Maybe one not see it. I'll just share the link later. But basically, this is just how the bridge ended up looking in Rwanda. So you have an idea, and you see everyone celebrating, crossing the bridge. Oh, there we go. Just for a second, this takes a lot of labor, a lot of planning, a lot of funding, and lots of coordination with also the local authorities in Rwanda. We had a wonderful relationship with the community. We stayed with them. We every day sang and danced and built things, and it was awesome. So it's really rewarding to see your work and know that the career that you've chosen is making an impact. Starting with like a bridge that is connecting 5,000 people from point A to point B, and now you know that they're not going to cross a flooded river. So this kept inspiring me to look for other opportunities in which you could like give back and make an impact. So as I said, I met my next manager and mentor in Rwanda, and that took me to Antarctica. So just for reference, where's McMurdo Station? McMurdo Station is in the Ross Island, so you can see it in the middle. It's not necessarily in the geographic South Pole. It's a long journey. We go from here to New Zealand, then take a military cargo plane and fly all the way to McMurdo Station in Antarctica, land on an ice sheet, and then we build things there. The goal was to basically modernize the station, the existing station that was built in the 50s. So they do a lot of research. It's funded by the NSF, the National Science Foundation. So a lot of the research that's been done regarding climate change, how's all the seals, penguins, how are they doing? Like that gets done there. A lot of core drilling to see like the age of Earth, microorganisms, everything that you can think of. McMurdo is basically one of the largest, if not the largest station actually, on continent, where people basically come in, think of it as a town, and then you fly out to different field camps to do research. So we wanted to modernize it. Turns out that it's really challenging to do that. We rely on a vessel that comes from LA, actually. That's where I live now. So it goes from Los Angeles to Australia, New Zealand, and then McMurdo in order to deliver material that I needed to do construction. So it was never easy. We had a lot of delays, a lot of logistical challenges, and we had to work it out while we were on site. So just to give you an idea, this is how, like the C-17 looks like. The station, you would think that there would be more snow, but, it's getting warmer out there. The first season that I arrived, it was actually 50 degrees. I think we're currently at the same temperature as McMurdo, 18 degrees. So we were actually sweating while I was wearing like a big red. You see that over there. That's Erebus. That's one of the southernmost active volcano. And we are probably less than 60 miles away from it. I don't know why we like building places next to an active volcano, but that's the case. So lots of opportunities. I had a fantastic team out on site, but I want to point out that construction, it's a heavily male-dominated industry. So my first season, I had another woman female engineer, field engineer alongside with me, and then she took a different career opportunity, so I was the only woman field engineer for a season. And it turns out that it's pretty challenging too, and you learn how to navigate that on site when my entire crew is Kiwi or from New Zealand, they're all men. So lots of learning experiences there, positive for 90% of the time. Other times you have to, make your way through in terms of how to explain things, how to, work with them on site, etc. But just to show some of the fun, we do get to see a lot of penguins. Those birds are called skuas, and that's Castle Rock. You get to hike it. I figured that I would put actually one of the photos from construction. That's one of the dormitories that we were doing. 3-story facility. We were also building a data center and a vehicle and operations center all at the same time. So we were busy working 6 days of the week, and really what made it work was that we had a pretty amazing community. So you're sharing this experience with a community that understands what everyone's going through, and that just makes it enjoyable to work that hard in a place that is completely isolated from everywhere else. We did not have internet my first season. We had to use, or Wi-Fi at least, we had to go to this computer kiosk to reach out to family. There was no, Wi-Fi texting or cell phone availability, so you also had to take turns to do that. So it was pretty isolated. The 2 last seasons, then we tested Starlink, and that's actually how I ended up starting to hear about SpaceX. So when I go back to these opportunities being interconnected, is that while I was there, one of my friends had worked for SpaceX and started talking to me about the idea of doing construction in the company because he had seen the need in the company to hiring more construction managers, construction engineers. And at the time I was pretty happy with my role. And I still was when I left, but it just came to a point in which after doing 3 seasons in Antarctica, you get to understand how the site works, what the challenges are, even in a bit bureaucratic challenges that we encounter that do delay construction. And I was a place in my career in which it started to feel stagnant. And you need to come to that self-realization that when things are getting stagnant, then it's time to pivot. And I just felt like I had been talking to this friend about it, and I started exploring and seeing the impact of Starlink on station, how that really improved our working conditions and just connectivity to our families, that I felt motivated to actually check out SpaceX, and then realize that there was a lot of construction that needed to happen. So at this time last year, I actually applied and proceeded with the interview process and whatnot, got the job, and now I'm a construction engineer at SpaceX in Los Angeles. So I work at the Hawthorne headquarters, and pretty busy, pretty fast, but learning a lot. So I don't know if you saw this, the latest news. This is our Starship. It got caught by this mechanical arms mid-air, which is pretty awesome that we're able to do that. I think one of the appeals about this company is that you go there, and at times it feels like you're in a playground because you're allowed to basically explore different avenues on how to do things. You're allowed to fail and try again. And I think that I haven't felt to this point in which I'm limited by saying, like, if you mess up, like, you're doing it wrong, like, something's going to happen. Instead, I think that there's, like, a lot of creativity that gets sparked amongst our coworkers that we're learning from each other. And that's kind of what I was looking for at the time. I wasn't planning to. It happened. And I think that one of the key takeaways, at least so far, this is year 8 in my career, is that I think that it doesn't have to be a linear path or, like, you need to figure out what's going to happen in the next 1 or 5 years. I think that as long as you put the work, if you are diligent about at least pursuing some of your interests, asking questions, you're going to be able to see results in a way or another. Like, I was able to network through each of these experiences, not intentionally, but it happened. I was able to sustain these relationships, and that really took me to the next step in my career. So I couldn't tell you what's going to happen in 3 years from now, but I think I know that as long as I'm enjoying what I'm doing and I'm trying to learn and I'm giving it my all, I know something's going to come up out of it. So I think, like, my key message here is that just embrace the uncertainty, like, stay curious and just give it a go. I think that at times we want to have it figured out, and we think that things need to have, like, a hard meaning by the end of graduation, or, like, I need to reach that management position or be a VP. But in reality, it's like, are you enjoying what you're doing? Do you feel challenged? To me, I just want to become a better engineer. I want to be able to give back to my community, and I want to keep learning. So how do we do that? That's exploring through different opportunities. So to me, just give it a go. If they tell you go to Antarctica, just do it. Like, you're gonna come back, like 6 months later, to me 4 years later, but, like, it just try it out. So yeah, I think that's the introduction. I hope you enjoy it. I'll answer questions later. So thank you.
Awesome, and there'll be plenty of time to ask Michelle some questions during the Q&A session of our evening. So now it's my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Stacy Lynett. Stacy is the 2025 Shannon Executive Scholar. She earned her undergraduate degree in mathematics from St. Mary's and subsequently obtained a Master of Science in Information Technology from Carnegie Mellon University. And Stacy serves as the Chief Information Officer and Vice President of Information Technology at General Motors. In this capacity, she oversees the technology and software engineering initiatives that underpin the essential internal operations and innovative solutions for manufacturing, customer care, product development, global supply chain, and corporate systems. And before assuming her current position, Stacy had previously held the role of Executive Director and CIO for Global Product Development and Quality at GM, and she had also previously occupied the CIO position at GM. So prior to becoming a member of the General Motors team, Stacy held various leadership positions in prestigious information technology firms, including CIT and Ernst & Young Consulting. Stacy lives in Northville, Michigan, alongside her husband, Michael. She is also the proud stepmother of Jacob, who is 21 years old and currently enrolled in Kalamazoo College. So please join me in welcoming Stacy to the stage for her Shannon Executive Scholar keynote. Thank you.
So I thought Michelle was amazing. Like, another round of applause. I don't know that my journey is nearly as interesting as Michelle's. And anytime I come back to St. Mary's, I find amazing women who are doing amazing things. So please stay for networking, because I just met 4 amazing women that I didn't know. That one works at Lego, one works at John Deere, one works for Cleveland Metro Parks, and another one for GE Aerospace. Those are amazing companies, and they're really amazing women. I just met them. So everyone you meet at St. Mary's has an amazing journey. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my journey, but I want to express each journey's different, right? So this is just one story of a path from St. Mary's and through the world, things that I navigated, what St. Mary's taught me, and kind of some lessons along the way. So I'm going to talk to you about who I am. I'm going to talk to you about my journey, what I learned, and what I think is next in my journey. So this is me, and I always think, like, shouldn't you just say who you are first so people know who the heck's talking to them? So this is me, and this is my family. I grew up in Allen Park, Michigan, which is south of the city of Detroit. So we like to say that the Journey song was written about us. So if you don't know the Journey song I'm talking about, it's Don't Stop Believing, and they say born in South Detroit, and we're like, yes, that's us. It's not, but we like to think that it is. So I now live in Northville, Michigan, which is west, and I didn't always live in Michigan. So as I talk about my journey, I'll talk about my circle back to Michigan, which I swore I would never be in, and now I live in back again there. I'm a city girl at heart, so my husband is not, so we do not live in the city. But I will talk to you about that a little bit. My fun fact is that I hate all condiments. So mustard, mayo, ketchup, salad dressing, any of it. So when I think one of the first times my husband was in my apartment when we were just dating, he opened the fridge and said, "Where's all the stuff that goes in the door?" We don't use that here. So. I love the cold, so this is a really great time for me, and I think I'm funnier than I am, so like I laugh at my own jokes. My husband will say, "Oh, you're cracking yourself up again." So I'm really not that funny. I do golf. I took that up because of my husband, so I wanted to see him on the weekend, so it felt like a smart thing to do. So I golf now, and it's an incredibly addictive sport, so if you don't do it yet, I suggest you don't, because it'll like wake you up in the middle of the night sometimes. I love to run, so that's my outlet. I'm not a good runner. I would be much skinnier if I was, but I do it to get my stress off of me for sure. I love family travel. This is some examples of our travel, and then anything sports, so that's my outlet. At one time, I wanted to go work for ESPN, and somebody told me don't, because sports is what makes you happy, and if it's also your job, it might be really bad for you. So maybe a little advice there. So here's my high-level journey. So I graduated in 1994. I like to think that I'm still 25, so that's probably not realistic, given that that was 31 years ago. So just ignore that number. I was a major in mathematics. At the time, this was the only building I took classes in, like literally the only building in Mataleva, and it was always in the door and to the left, by the way. So all of the math department was to the left, and it was the only place I really went on campus, but it was fantastic. My first job was out of Chicago. My only goal, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, was that I didn't want to go home. So I thought there had to be a better place than Michigan. I'm going to figure out where I want to work and live, and I moved to Chicago. So it was a big move for me. I felt like I was in the real world, and it certainly gave me a chance to travel, so I'll talk a little bit about that. My industry focus at that time when I started with Ernst & Young, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I was a math major, and I joined an information technology consulting company. I took one computer class here. I took Pascal and I was not that good at it. But I joined actually in the actuarial science department, and I'll talk a little bit about how I got into the consulting side, and I just learned as I went. And so I don't think, lots of you said, I'm taking a gap year, I'm not sure what I want to do. I heard some people say that. That's okay, because your journey's going to build itself as you go. And so as I got into that career, I really became an industry focus in finance, and I thought, this makes sense to me. I'm going to stay in finance forever. And so I moved to New York, which was, I took a job specifically in finance. I thought, well, that's the finance capital of the world. Of course I should go live in New York, and I'm going to be a finance IT person. That's going to make a ton of sense. So I went there, and from there, my brother had kids. I was single. He had 2 children. They were 4 and 2, and I thought, I need to be the super aunt. I'm going to go back to Michigan. So I found a finance organization in Michigan that I could go work for, and I thought, I'll just go for a little while. I'll be the super aunt, and then I'll leave. Then I met my husband, so here I am. I'm still living in Michigan. I'm going to leave someday again. But then my big change, which I'll talk about, is I was always finance, and I got this opportunity to move to automotive. And so I am now in automotive, which was, if you grow up in Michigan, you really never want to be in automotive. You're like, I'm never going to work for one of the car companies. Now, 17 years at General Motors, I love General Motors. So like life will take you in circles that you don't expect. So a little bit about my experience. So when I first came out of college, I worked for Ernst & Young. So here on campus, and I know it's very different now than it was, but they used to have these big events where everybody came to campus, the big recruiting companies, and they'd bring all of the people who recently graduated, so they looked young and fun, and they'd have a big kind of a party, like they'd have a pizza thing, and they'd do these little things, and then you'd go interview on campus in these rooms. And I interviewed with Ernst & Young. I interviewed with GE. They didn't take me. I interviewed with Arthur Andersen and all of the big consulting companies because for math majors, that was kind of the advice that we went to go do. And I was lucky enough to get interviews you go back to the office to do your second interview. That was a big thing. So they'd take you and pay for you to go to Chicago. So my first trip to the big city, I went to Chicago, and both Ernst & Young and Arthur Andersen at the time, it's known as Andersen Consulting now, Accenture, it's Accenture now, so it was Arthur Andersen at the time, both offered me on-site interviews. So I scheduled them for the same day, on my birthday in Chicago. The next day was the Penn State game, which was the snow game in 1993, for those of you who were around. So I was super excited, so I drive to Chicago the night before. It took me about 2.5 hours in the city to figure out how to turn into the hotel because it was very confusing. I had a rental car because I didn't have a car. I finally get there, and my first interview was with Andersen, and it was lovely, right? So 3 different interviews, nice little coffee, everyone was super nice, and I went in and I spoke to the partner, and he's like, the last interview was with the partner. He's like, we'd like to offer you a position. I think you're going to be very lucky to work here. You're going to be very lucky to do just about anything because you're going to learn a lot from people like me. Okay, well, thank you, sir. So I went to Ernst & Young, and I had a very similar process, 3 interviews, and the last one, the gentleman said, Don Hauschild was his name. He said, we need somebody like you. We need your energy, we need your brain, we want you to be part of the team. Will you come on board? I said, oh yeah, this is for me. Because he was so much nicer than the other gentleman. And so I called my parents when I got home and I said, I have a job, it's my birthday, I'm going to a football game. And they said, what are you gonna be doing? I said, I have no idea. I said, I'm gonna be an actuarial consultant for Ernst & Young. My mom was an accounting teacher. She said, oh, no, you're gonna be an accountant. And I said, no, I'm not. But I don't know what it really means. When I showed up for my job, they handed me my first ever computer. So I had never had a computer. Like, we had a computer lab here at St. Mary's, thank goodness, in the basement of Lemon. There was a Mac side, and there was lots of people laughing, and there was a non-Mac side, which had Word Perfect in it. If you don't remember, it was a DOS program, yeah. So they handed me a computer, and they said, you need to build your internal resume. Okay. So I'm working on Word, which I'd never worked on before. Seemed like a pretty cool product, but I mean, I can type, right? So there's my name, and like, here's my internal resume. And about 2 weeks into being in the office, the partner walked around and said, does anybody know how to add 2 numbers? We need you to go out to Elgin, Illinois. I'm a math major from St. Mary's College. I can add 2 numbers. So they sent me out to a place called First Card. So back in the day, credit cards had, if you went in to get something at the store, which I know everyone buys everything online, but if you handed them your credit card, if you did a MasterCard or you did a Visa, they went to 2 different systems. So think of them as 2 completely different systems. So it was a different set of processes underneath. So there was a big project where they combined what they call the Visa and MasterCard interchange. So basically it meant when you swipe your card, it didn't matter if it was a Visa, MasterCard, or American Express, or a Discover. And when they consolidated it at this credit card company, everyone's balance was wrong. And they couldn't figure out what happened. So we were reconciling accounts manually in a warehouse. Bring your North Face coat. It was freezing. So it's okay to wear a hat and gloves, but as long as you can add numbers. So we're cranking through numbers, like, and you're just reconciling the account. Oh, we owe this person $200. We have to take this person away $200. And I'm working through, and I find this pattern. I'm like, oh, I think I know what went wrong. They're like, okay, junior consultant, what do you know? And I said, this is the pattern. This is what happened. And they were cutting off a number in a program. It's irrelevant. But I ended up becoming the project manager on that project. I ended up becoming the software manager for that that remediation project. I ended up working out there for about 1.5 years, and I started to understand about IT and systems, and I became an IT consultant. So I did that for several years, all in banking. And part of that banking, if you know anything about the banking industry, all they do is merge and merge. Like banks buy each other and then they combine, and they buy each other and they combine. And I went to work in Washington, D.C. for the tax department, super interesting. Did a big system for them, and then I came back to ABN AMRO and did some banking. And so that's LaSalle Bank, it's Bank of America, it's lots of things that you know. And so I did that both in Chicago and New York for several years. And then my return to home. So GM, in my tour of the banking industry, we put in a product called SAP. So it's a software product. I'm sure many of you have heard of it. I call it slow and painful. That's what it stands for. It's horrible. The systems take forever to put in. But I had done it at ABN AMRO. So when I wanted to come home, GMAC was wanting to put in SAP as a financial platform for them. And GMAC was the financial arm of General Motors at the time. So I went home and I became the lead there. Putting in SAP, which was fine, and I was home, and I was only going to stay for a little while. Again, met my husband. He's a sweet guy, but he ruined my plan to go back to Chicago. So I was home there working at GMAC when the bankruptcy hit for General Motors. I mean, so you can see kind of the year. So the financial crisis happened at this time, and they said, we're going to sell off GMAC from GM. That was part of our idea to raise money. So we sold it to a company called Cerberus, and we split the company, which is now Ally Bank, by the way. So we redid it, and we had to separate those two companies. And so I ran the separation program, which basically separated all of the corporate systems and the systems behind the scenes. And at the end of that, I jumped to General Motors. So I got an opportunity to be able to be part of the bankruptcy, and I'm like, that sounds awesome. Because when is a company, a Fortune 10 company, going to go into bankruptcy? That has to be an experience I should have. So it was actually kind of cool. So I've never experienced anything like it before. And quite frankly, I don't want to experience it again. But I learned a ton, right? You learn really about critical process, how, you see the best and the worst of people. You read lots of interesting articles about yourself and your job and your company. And again, I continued to swear I wasn't staying in automotive, but it's been 17 years, so I might be staying in automotive. So when I think back along my journey, I thought I would just highlight kind of what I learned throughout that process. When you start, all of us want to make an immediate impact, and I think you do, but I think you're really in a true absorb mode for the first 5 years. You're learning as much as you're giving, so you really want to position yourself around people who are willing to help you learn. And so, I think consulting back in the 90s was really great this way. They were intentionally bringing in a lot of college hires to be able to help grow them. So you were giving, of course, and the hours can be ridiculous, but in return, you're getting a lot of value, information, a lot of opportunities to sit places that you wouldn't sit. When I was with Ernst & Young when we did the tax project, and it was to do distributed tax files. Basically, what happens in tax season is the auditing is all done in a particular office, and back then you weren't able to move things around. There wasn't an internet. So the companies, there were no iPhones. So the work could get really heavy in Chicago and really light in, Des Moines, and they wanted to be able to share work. So we built a distributed system to be able to allow them to replicate that. And I was lucky enough to be able to work with Microsoft because we were using Microsoft SQL Server at the time. And we built the first replicated Microsoft solution across 8 data centers. We won Microsoft Solution of the Year that year. And my partner let me go to the awards ceremony, and I sat next to Bill Gates. I was 25 years old. And I thought, I've got some comments about Excel. Would you like to hear? I would. So Going back to my computer lab days at St. Mary's, WordPerfect, it was a DOS program, so everything was by control keys. Like you didn't have a mouse, so you would say function 2, function 1. So Excel had the same thing, like you could do everything by the keyboard. I never used a mouse. And they had a new version of Excel that came out, I want to say like 6 months before this particular award ceremony. And they changed some of the shortcut keys. And I said, you changed some of the shortcut keys? And he was like, did we? I said, yeah, as a matter of fact, the control edit width of a column was a hide. Like you lost columns because of the way that those key things worked. And he was like, okay, send me an email. And it never really went back, just so you know. But to this day, a lot of them are still the same, and I'd like to say that I contributed to that. So if you use them, I would like to say that's part of me. So my lesson from E&Y was expect the unexpected. So whether it's sitting next to Bill Gates or going out to reconcile data and end up finding yourself as a program manager for a system that you didn't really understand, I think expecting the unexpected, not unlike what Michelle said, is kind of what gets you there. For ABN AMRO, CIT, AT&T, this was kind of my New York journey. This is where I learned a little bit more about leading teams. And I think when you become a manager, you only learn through experience. I'd like to say that you can take all the classes in the world, but it's really moments that matter and experiences that take you forward, right? So it's hard to reproduce a moment that's difficult. Even if you talk about it, you just kind of have to live it. So part of this was how I started learning how to lead. When you become a team member and then you start leading people, you still want to be part of that team. You're not any better. You're just in a different role. And so figuring out how to balance that was super important for me. And so my lesson here is never underestimate the power of out-of-box thinking. So if you just are leading, doing what you did, then you're not really moving the team forward, right? So you want to figure out how to do something different, how to change something. I think Michelle said it great about being able to be creative and innovative, and that's it's really important that no matter what field we're in, I heard a lot of medical field as we were introducing people, that's constantly changing. So you always want to think about what's next, not what's now. If I talk about GMAC, raise your hand for the hardest project. When we were separating, they were like, who wants to run the separation program? I was in a room about 12 people. People started looking at their computer, writing stuff down. It was going to be hard, and it was going to need to be fast. I'm like, sure, count me in. I think you learn so much by getting out of your comfort zone, and I think you grow the most when you don't know what you're doing. So I'd never separated network, separated cyber, created new identity management, split payroll in 9 months, and we did that wrong. But you learn the most when you don't know what you're doing, because it makes you focus and makes you kind of retool your learning mindset that you have now. You just don't ever want to give that up, because everything that we do is going to continue to change and grow. And then the last one, one of the things that I learned at General Motors is as you lead and as you grow, the skills that you have now are fantastic. And St. Mary's prepares you not really by skill, but how to learn. And what I realized is that the tech industry, when I started, like I said, no iPhones, right? Now everything was mobile. We never talked about cyber attacks when I first started, and now all we care about is cyber. So at some point I said, I don't know enough to manage the team that I'm managing. So I said, I better go back to school. So I went to Carnegie Mellon to get an information technology systems engineering degree, because I thought it was really important that I took a networking class for the modern network, that I understood how cyber really worked, that I actually took a Java class, and I hated it, as much as I hated Pascal the first time around. But it was important for me to retool myself. And then I had the opportunity to do a Stanford Business School initiative as well for a year, which really helped kind of hone some of my business skills. So my only message here is, I know that graduation day is fabulous and you're like, I'm so done with homework, but you're gonna realize someday I gotta learn some more. It doesn't have to be formal, but there's always a need to continue to retool yourself and kind of grow as individuals. So the last thing is, I was in a similar kind of discussion. My dad taught at high school, and he asked me to come into his class when I was pretty young, like 24, and it was a Catholic school. He taught at Divine Child High School. And one of the kids raised his hand and he said, "Do you think that you can be a Christian and be in corporate America?" And I said, "Wow, that's interesting." I said, "Absolutely. I'm going to try it, and I'm going to see if it works." And my message is, I feel like my leadership is based on the fact that I think if you're kind to people, people want to work with you. So I believe that to this day, I'm still carrying that message forward that nice gentleman, the nice kid that was in 9th grade asked me, I think you do have to be true to who you are. I think being kind doesn't mean that you're not giving honest feedback, but you can do it in a great way. And so I believe that kindness wins. We're talking technology, biology, any field that you're in, you have to work with a lot of people. And if you treat them with respect, I think you get respect back. And as a result, you create a community where people can be themselves. And if they can be themselves, they're going to do great for you. So to me, I think kindness yields results. So some people ask me all the time, what's my day like? I don't know. It's a lot of meetings, right? So admittedly, I mean, when I started, I actually like to do work. I like to build PowerPoints. I like to, solve problems. I like to, we're putting in Slack right now, which is a collaboration tool, and I like to configure it. But I'm in a lot of meetings just because of my job. And that for me, it kind of sucks, but I am in a lot of meetings. But if I focus on making sure that the ones that I'm in do 3 kind of things. First is problem solving. So I love a hard problem. So I don't want a meeting of just a status. I want a meeting where something's wrong, right? What do we need to fix and how can we collaborate on that? So the first is just a lot of problem solving. The second is what I would call strategic leadership, and that's that what's next. I can't live in the where we are. I have to live in the where are we going. My team can take care of the where we are, but we always have to look at what's coming. And technology changes so much that it's really important that we look ahead. And the last one is developing others. And so for me at this point in my career, it's about who's going to do my job. Where's my succession plan? Who are my leaders? How do I continue to give them an opportunity to be successful and put other people in the spotlight? And it's about making sure we have diverse talent, that we have a variety of ways of thinking at the table so that we can be successful as a team. So this is what I believe, continuously learn. And I think if I was sitting where you're sitting now, I would say, seriously, I just want to be done. I want my comp over. And I think I told a small group of people this, but I just want to complain at a broader level. I did not get honors on my comp. And I think I should have. So there was a professor, Professor Miller, was my comp advisor, and people said, don't pick Professor Miller as your advisor. I'm like, I'm going after him. I'm going to do this. I did not get honors. But no, I mean, seriously, I think when you want your comp done, you just want it over, you just want to graduate and not have to think about learning, but you're always going to learn in life and learn always, but you're going to have to keep moving forward in anything that we do these days. You be you. I can't stress this enough. I think particularly for women, there was a lot of playbooks around how to be the perfect executive, how to talk to a group, how to lead. There's 1,000 books, self-help books out there about helping women feel more like a man when they're leading. Don't be yourself. Work is exhausting, and you have to just be yourself. The only person you really know how to be is you. And they hired you because they wanted you. So my husband said this, he says it to me all the time, you be you, and I'm like, okay, all right, I'll try. Sometimes you get a new boss. I've had a lot of new bosses. We've been doing a lot of West Coast work these days, so I'm introducing to a lot of tech companies, and you want to measure up to them. Don't. Be yourself. It's the only person you can be, and you're going to be the best when you are you. And then listen to learn. So this is a big one that I heard a few years ago. A lot of us listen to reply. Somebody starts talking and you have an answer. I do it to my husband, by the way, which is bad. But you want to listen to learn. What are you trying to tell me? Let me take it all in. Then I should reply. And you can see it when somebody does it. And so lately, this is kind of one that we're trying to do as a leadership team. If somebody starts, are you listening? Are you trying to learn? It's really important. So listen to learn and not to reply. So find your passion. all of you had a lot of passion in what you were talking about, which I love. And I think St. Mary's helps you really find what you're strong at. I heard a great story, I think she's here from Tony today, that a professor even helped point her in the right direction of where her passion was. You don't have to do something because it's going to check a box. The world is coming together in so many ways that I feel like as long as you're following your passion, I think it's great. And so I like information technology because it's behind the scenes. So some of my product software engineering partners like to build product and be the stars. I like to be the enabler. And so for me, it's a lot of passion. You work a lot in your life. And I think if you really find your passion, you're in a better place to be able to go forward. And then I love this quote. I always use it. If you haven't read it, if you're always trying to be normal, you'll never know how amazing you could be. It follows right along with that you be you. But if you're trying to fit in, you might not find you're amazing. So be yourself. So when we talk about what's next, and this is my last slide, and we'll turn it over to questions for sure. Where is the world going? In my world, AI and robotics are it. And AI shouldn't scare us, right? It would be like my parents being scared of a computer, right? This is a major change. Now, it doesn't mean that technology doesn't have problems and needs to be controlled and needs to be effective, but we can't avoid the fact that AI is here and it's going to be part of our future, which means we have to make sure that we understand it, that we use it appropriately, that we have the right controls around it, and that we engage it in such a way that it helps somebody improve their thinking, not replace the thinking. And so it's not like people are scared, oh, it's going to take away jobs. It's going to take away some jobs, but jobs that we didn't really want to do anyway. Nobody wants all day to process invoices, right? Like nobody really wants to do that. So that person now can do something different. So if you're not already thinking about how AI is going to impact you and your industry, really start to understand this. It's something that's going to be here. It's going to be here in our regular lives. We likely will never talk to another bank professional in our lives. Like it will just never happen. When you go for a loan for your home, you're going to end up talking to an AI agent. It's okay. It's about making sure that we understand what the boundaries are and that how we control that power of that AI. It's also by the way, Michelle doesn't know what she's doing in the next 3 years, but I'm going to hire her to build our AI data center. So AI is a very energy, the power that it pulls and the energy that it needs and the heat that it produces is very dangerous for the climate. So smart people are going to continue to work on that, but it is something that has to continue to be evolved from fit for purpose to make sure that we get it right as we move forward. And robotics is the same. It's real. Like there's going to be less people doing things and a lot more robots doing things as we go forward. I'm sure that my friend from John Deere can agree. A lot of the roles in the plants that are very manual should be done by robots as we go forward, including delivering materials. Again, nobody really woke up in the morning and said, I can't wait to get the materials to the line. A robot will do that, and they'll be able to do something smarter. So for you, it's about understanding why a process needs to get done, a business needs to get done, why you're doing something, and making sure that you can architect how it should work, and then let the AI tools do the work behind it. But this is where it's coming in the future and something we all need to, make sure that we're aware of. So I hope that journey story wasn't too boring. We all have a journey. I'm excited for all of you to start and look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Yeah, so Michelle, you can come up again, and let's just thank the speakers one more time. Big round of applause. Great. So we do have some questions that were submitted by students when they were signing up for the keynote, so we can start with some of those, but if there's some in the audience, we're happy to take them now. Just hold up your hand. All right, I'll kick it off and then we'll come back. So the first question that was submitted was, do you feel that St. Mary's adequately prepared you for your job? And what made you decide to do future schooling if you did it? And so I think so you commented on this, Stacy, definitely what drove to that future learning. But can you maybe say what you think St. Mary's did to help you prepare?
I can start.
Yeah. Oh, you have to turn on the...
it goes. There
Yep.
it goes. So from a preparation standpoint, I think St. Mary's, I think I talked a little bit about it, but foundationally it's about learning to learn. Because life is all about learning. And I think it teaches you a foundation of how to do that. I also think St. Mary's provides such a foundation of confidence building, feeling like you can ask a question, feeling like that you can raise your hand in a room. And part of it is because it is all women and we support each other. And I think that as you continue to move forward, having that confidence to raise your hand for a hard project, ask a question when you need help, because that's equally as important in your careers. I think St. Mary's does a fantastic job in giving you that confidence to move forward.
I agree with that. I don't think I have much more to add because I do feel the same. That was one of the foundational experiences for me as well. I think confidence is something that I think we all have. And based on experiences, you just get better at, talking about yourself, talking about what you want. And I think I remember my first year after graduating, and I was in a meeting room, and it was all men. And I was the first, and like the young engineer on the table. And I don't know why, I just felt like this immediate comfort to actually sit on the table because typically engineers, like young engineers, we're sitting along the edge, and the little quote of grab a seat on the table, that happened, and just feeling that initiative to talk, it just made me think back to classes that we had here and that you had to raise your hand and engage in dialogue. So I think that was really foundational for me in terms of pursuing later education. I think you have the example, and it's actually something that I do keep thinking about, because to your point, you continues to learn, and I don't know, with your career progressing, there's always something new to, acquire experience on. So.
Great.
When you build our AI data center, we can get you some extra education.
Excellent. I love it.
Networking, love it. Any questions from the audience? Yes. Yeah. Great. So I'm going to repeat the question just so that the live stream audience can hear. So it's a question of how do you prepare for that step into your first career? That's definitely scarier than high school to college. Yeah.
Yeah, I can start. I think it's fair to say that it's intimidating, it's scary. Adulting in terms that now you have to pay rent, you have to look for a car potentially, decide what city might fit best for you. I think that was one that I actually wanted to prioritize as to where do I see myself meeting people that, I'll get along with. In a short period of time, meeting people becomes difficult too. You have a structure here in college in which you have events that are organized by the university. You have, football games that you go tailgate and whatnot, but in a city, you're starting from scratch in a way, and I think it really pushes you out of your comfort zone to be intentional about, yes, you have a work 9 to 5, and then what do you do with the time afterwards? You need to find what also still drives you to make community, and I think that's something to keep in mind when you go for your first job, or how do you create community in a new place? So.
Yeah, I think I totally agree. I think the community part is really important. I thought the first job was terrifying. I was up all night the night before, and we had really strict guidelines at Ernst & Young. You could wear a black or a navy suit skirted. I've never worn a black or navy suited skirt since then because it was annoying. But I think, for me it was, get there early, do a lot of listening, and make sure that you're able to figure out, who's going to help you. What I think all companies do now, and I think Ernst & Young did it really well too, is I had something called a buddy. That's what they called them. I think most do, and you'll have somebody that kind of helps you along the way. But I think it isn't that different from the first day of college where you're like, holy cow, all this new information I have to learn, and then you kind of get in a rhythm. So it is a little scary. I think the key was for everybody to remember that first job isn't your last job, right? So if it doesn't work out, it's okay. If it's not the perfect fit, that's okay. If it's not the city you want to live in, that's okay too. They say that everybody changes careers 5 times, and whether that's just cities or jobs or places. So I think the key is to not treat it like this is what I'm doing for the next 35 years. It's not. You should take it in the same paces as we took junior high and high school and college, right? So this is what I'm I'm going to do for the next 4 years, and I'm going to learn a lot, and then I'm going to see what's next. And as long as you always have that open mindset, I think it becomes a little less scary.
Great. So we can go back to another question here while students in the audience think. So this was a long question, but I think it summarizes to how this person was wondering, they weren't really sure what they're currently good at, and so thus don't know what they might be good at in a future career. So how do you identify your own strengths and then build towards a career?
Don't be afraid to ask people what your strengths are. You'll be surprised on what they'll tell you that your strengths are that you don't think. And so that whoever that person is, and quite frankly, everybody, you have friends, you have family, you have professors, you have people, they'll tell you, oh my gosh, you're so this. They'll see it maybe before you do. And as you're growing, sometimes it's hard for you to see your own strengths. But again, I will stress that they should find what they like to do as opposed to what they're strong at. Because if you really love it, you'll continue to learn. So finding that passion point.
Again, trying new experiences within your same company even. I mean, you might end up working at a place that had different departments, and that if you ask for the opportunity to let's say one semester, let's compare it 6 months, you get introduced to design in my case. I then ask, like, what opportunities do we have in construction just to try it out? Another time, like scheduling. So like within your field, like identifying different skills that you think you want to test out, then you'll figure out like what you feel more comfortable doing long term. And ultimately, you kind of like have to use them all, but you'll see what's something that you want to like look for like a longer term, not job, but position in. But start just by testing it out and seeing if your company has multiple opportunities that you could, move in within the same place. So.
The room is ready to start their Friday night.
Yeah. The room should be ready to raise their hand and ask questions. Yeah, so we do have some others. So if some of you are in the audience thinking, I did submit a question. Oh, there's one. Yeah, go ahead.
If you feel like you want to move to a city, like post-grad, that's a bit farther away, and there might not be as many like known opportunities there as like the more local cities like Chicago and stuff, who would you recommend talking to?
Yeah, so the question was, how do you build connections in a city that you might not have much familiarity with and that might be further away from where we are now? Yeah.
So never underestimate the power of the SMC alumni group. I'm really not kidding. I know it sounds crazy, but I mean, when we have somebody here from Cincinnati, somebody from Iowa, somebody from, I'm going to miss Kentucky, somebody from Cleveland. I mean, they're really strong alumni groups. And if they don't know, then they'll get you in touch with somebody who will. So the power of friends and connection is really important. And also don't underestimate, I know it sounds crazy, internet research. It really does kind of give you some ideas of some opportunities in various cities. All of the big cities that you might want to pursue have all the industries in them. So a lot of them have ways to be able to get in touch. It's amazing to see recruiting in all the big companies these days, right? They really, you can do just an interest, and you'll usually get a call back from a recruiter that will spend some time talking to you about opportunities.
Yeah, and I would say to your point on like networking events in like big cities, that's something that just thinking back to when I first moved, I lived in Indianapolis, Chicago, now I'm in Los Angeles. So in LA is the example in which like I don't think I know that many people. And at this time in my life, I felt a lot more comfortable taking that plunge in which I knew I would start again. But when I first moved to Indianapolis, I did reach out to alumni from St. Mary's that pointed me to, oh, I know this person, I need this other person. And it kind of started building it that way. And same thing happened in Chicago. At the time, we used a lot of meetups, and I would go to like the different professional events, not necessarily through St. Mary's, but I would find just random STEM events that were hosted, and then I would network through there. But in terms of selecting a city, think of the location, not necessarily just because of the job, but like what opportunities that you like doing outside of school, for example, might be offered there, in which you'll be able to meet people through those events as well. So.
Yeah, and I'm just going to follow up on this because I think I also moved to Boston and then San Francisco. and trying to connect can be difficult in those kind of cities if you don't know anybody. And I think the St. Mary's connection was really great. So I reached out to people on LinkedIn. You can search by area, you can search by St. Mary's, and we'll tell you a little bit about how to do that tomorrow in the LinkedIn session, a plug for what the students will experience tomorrow. But that's basically what I did. And then I also connected to the St. Mary's alumni clubs in both of those cities. In a large city, there's gonna be you can find them in the St. Mary's registry of clubs. There's going to be a club. That's a great way to connect with people who might be in your area, but also might just be nice to socialize with. Yep. Question.
I just want to also add that as an alum, you will be entered into the alum portal. And you can find any alum by name, year, even just look up a state, and you'll have all the alum in that state. So I've done that as well. When as you get older, if you're trying to find somebody, even if you just know a Catherine, because there's 7,000 of them, you can find every Catherine, and you'll see where they all live. It's actually also really cool.
Yeah.
That's also available too, not just by club, but by individual person.
Right, and you can also, some of them also are keyworded or key coded for the field that person is currently working in, and so that is a really great resource that you get kind of automatically shuttled into as you graduate. It's unfortunate if that's not available as you're kind of preparing for that first job, but you can use similar kind of searching tricks on those databases. Yes, question.
Can you both share just one really funny, cute story? Not it doesn't have to be kind of cute, but this is so St. Mary's. I have to tell you about this one.
Okay, so the best memory, this is so St. Mary's moment for each of you.
So I'll go. So do you guys still have the graffiti dance, the graffiti shirt thing? Okay.
We did.
You did it. So again, old. I'm old, people. I'm so old. Okay, so when we came on campus and the freshmen came on campus for Notre Dame, we had a graffiti dance thing. It was in the North Quad, and everybody wore a white shirt, and you brought a Sharpie, and you wrote each other's names on it. So my roommate met her now husband at that moment. They wrote on each other's shirt, and we kind of all could tell. They locked eyes. We're like, seriously? This happens? So fast forward, it's the first Valentine's Day, and we had a big board of everybody who got flowers on the board, and my name was on the board. I had no boyfriend. My parents didn't like me that much. I was like, okay. So the day, the week or the day before, that same gentleman had said, he was arguing with my roommate. She had really long, beautiful hair, not unlike your beautiful hair, by the way. And she wanted to cut it short. And I've always had short hair, people. He said, no guys like girls with short hair. I'm like, ooh. So he sent me a dozen roses on Valentine's Day. My name was on the board, so St. Mary's in my mind, and it said, slip of the tongue abound, hope our friendship is still sound.
Aww.
And I thought, oh, I hope they get married. They did. I went to the wedding. They've been together forever. It was really sweet, though, but that flower board is so St. Mary's.
I don't know if I can top that. I would say that, I have vivid memories just because I was, my roommate and I, had a great hallway, and I guess with our neighbors, we ended up building, you know how you can do the double beds? We ended up doing a triple bunk bed.
Oh, yeah.
and people near us were aware, and I was like, this is my freshman year, and I'm by no means
that's a policy
aware
violation.
of how this is gonna work. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's not structurally sound. We should just...
That's why she's a construction engineer now.
But everyone was in it. We were all just committed. So I just have this vivid memory of all of the neighbors in my hallway, and my roommate and I just putting this together in a hammock on the bottom bunk, and just having a blast. We watch a movie and whatnot. And I think that some stories like that. Also taking Blinky. But funny enough, it would be Blinky, we would take it, on a Saturday night, but also after really long nights at the library on the other side. So it would always be a mix of okay, we're either studying or having fun, but always taking Blinky. So it's, yeah. Oh, it's,
that we didn't have it. I need the scoop.
Okay, so how to explain Blinky? I guess it's a van that picks you up by the lake. By the grotto, there's a station. It's for safety, but also so you don't walk across.
Okay.
on the campus, and typically I would say like through the weekends, like you always have like you will see you will see,
Party
like,
bus. It is.
towards
Okay.
Blinky, and
It used to be a white van, and since Blinky's got an upgrade and now it's labeled.
there we go.
Just go like,
Wow.
When I was in college, it was a white van.
It's like, get in the
Oh my
van.
God, does
get
it
in the
have
van.
lights inside now?
It became Blinky because the light.
Ah,
And then over time, they
got
actually,
it.
he's now like official by the college. But when I was in college, it was a white van.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, very good.
I'm pretty sure a precursor to Blinky was running while you were here because you were talking earlier. My mom was here around the
Oh, yeah.
but it was like an actual full bus.
I was gonna say it was the bus that ran to the grotto. It was like a city bus.
Times change. Yeah.
Ah, got that. So I have a story about that bus. Actually, so I boarded that bus one time from St. Mary's to go over to Notre Dame. And on that bus walked Rick Meyer, who was our quarterback at the time. And he had had kind of a shitty game the week before. He was visiting somebody at St. Mary's. And for whatever reason, there was only like 4 of us on the bus. And I looked at him and I said, "You threw really high to Lake Dawson all game." He didn't say anything. He just looked at me. Probably one of the last times I took that bus, but thank you.
Yes, question.
So, from my experience with the PDW or like the workshop last year, one of the things, or I guess little dimes of wisdom that was given was that like with competency and that woman kind of are men are more likely to feel qualified for something.
Oh gosh, yes.
They have less qualifications, and women are more likely to feel underqualified where they have the qualifications. And so I guess for like you guys, and especially for like applying for jobs and stuff like that, how do you feel, I guess, how do you make yourself feel not only confident but competent in what you're doing, and so that you're not like one of the statistics where we're like, well, I'm actually qualified, but I'm not qualified, kind of thing.
Yeah, so just to repeat the question, it's a question about the confidence gap where men will assume that they're more qualified than they actually are, and women frequently undercount their own qualifications. And how do you battle that? So.
I want to say that battle continues. I mean, I encounter it as I guess I increase in positions. I would say that just keep it in mind that giving it a go is like the first step, right? Like you see a management position that you think that you need 10 years of experience in order to take it. I know of people that have probably 5 and they'll still apply. And when I hear stories about that, I'm just like, why am I not doing that? And just like taking like a second to think about why you're doing it, and is it a matter that you think that you need to acquire more skills, like that you're afraid that it might take some negotiation? What is missing that you think you need to have that all figured out before you just like give it a go? I think that's something that I've kept in mind, at least when these opportunities have come up in different locations. I couldn't tell you that at times I felt 100% qualified for these positions, but it just really, I want to say that I kept that in mind. I was just like, why not just give it a go, talk to the people that are, posting this position, seeing what they think that I could, like learn in the summer before I go for it. But ultimately, I don't want to say that it goes away over time, but just being a little bit self-conscious that I do have colleagues that are definitely going for positions that I could just apply myself. It still happens. But
I think that's true. I also think you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable, right? And so sometimes I think as women, we like to be comfortable cozy, comfortable chair, comfortable jeans. Please don't wash those. They're perfectly fit now. But taking that position means you're going to be uncomfortable for a little while. And sometimes I think our male counterparts are more comfortable being uncomfortable. If you can accept that it's going to be a growth and you're going to be uncomfortable, I think that you go for it. Definitely, I think that the rule on it is if there's 10 things that men will say if they have 2, they're going to apply for it, and women say they have to have all 10.
Yeah.
That's crazy, you guys. Like, if we put 10 things down as, like, here's what we want for a job, we only are expecting 3 or 4 of them. So I think it's about going for it. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate those stats. So in highly controlled studies, they've shown that men will try and apply for a mock job ad where they meet 4 or fewer, 40% or fewer of the qualifications. So like that's their cutoff, 4 out of 10. And then women, it's like, gotta have every one. I'm not qualified if I don't check every single one of these required qualifications. And men are like, nope, 4 out of 10, ready to go. Submit it and see what happens, roll the dice.
It seems like 2.
And so I think I think that is a really important statistic to remember. There's a lot of people that are applying for these jobs not meeting all of the required qualifications, right? And I think we'll talk a little bit more about this tomorrow, about how to read a job ad and think about, what important skills do I have that might not be exactly this, but essentially give me the same thing. The other thing is, I really liked the recommendation of having somebody else tell you what you're good at, have someone else look at your resume and see what you might be missing and what you might be underselling, experience with, expert in, familiarity. All of these mean different things on a resume, and so it's really important that you get that right. Yes?
I was wondering, like, in the short term, like, did you guys have any internships or research experience, or like, how did you get those, and like, what was your experience with that?
So the question was about internships or research experience that might have led up to, your first job.
Yeah, I would say I did have, NDC actually was one of my summers, so that took the summer and it counted, I think we got a credit for it, but also it counted towards like construction experience for me, which led to my next internship, which I did look for opportunities in Chicago before graduating. So I was a transportation intern there. By then I knew that I did want to go towards a route of, civil engineering. So I just started browsing for opportunities before graduating to see if that company could hire me full time. That did not happen, but it was great to actually learn about other companies through that because I did end up going to, professional events during the summer that I was an intern. No research for me. I guess like in my industry at least, like that wasn't like a key item to have like before applying for these jobs. But yeah, I guess like at least two experiences before starting my full-time job. It's what counted for.
Yeah, and I did a statistical research internship, and then I never went into statistical research. But I did it.
Yeah, and so I'll just comment too. So I did 2 research experiences when I was at St. Mary's, one in an academic lab over the summer, and then one at Eli Lilly in Indianapolis. And so I really think that the internship experience, working 40 hours a week, really give you a sense of the job, of the position, whether it's the right fit for you, whether you're doing something that's interesting, or whether, it's not the best fit. And then you can move on and you gain a lot of clarity in terms of what you might want to apply for your first job. We might have time for a few more questions. Yeah.
You both have talked a lot about like adapting and going through your life and your career, and I was wondering if you ever experienced like the fear of the unknown and how you like combat that.
I mean, all the time, right? I still do. So technology is always a little unknown, right? The next step that you take, and I think it's a little back to the question of when you get a new job, that are you going to be good enough to be able to do it? Are you going to be able to absorb that? So I took this job, my new job that I've been in has been about almost 2 years now, but I have 180 manufacturing plants around the globe, and I never really worked in a manufacturing plant, and I got to make sure that they stay running. So everything seems a little daunting, and so for me, it's about breaking it down into smaller pieces. What do I bring to the table? What do I need to get from my team? What do I need to learn? And so making sure that the things that I do well, I make sure that I bring to the table. I make sure that I have people that surround me that are smarter than me. I think there's this big moment in your career, and I don't really know, I can't tell you when it'll happen, when you realize that you need people that are smarter than you on your team, and you can't be scared of that because you bring something different to the table. And so for me, that's a big flip for me of making sure that I've got the right team on the table and making sure I support and empower them to go. Like your career follows the same kind of crazy path that your life does, right? And so I would argue that my equal fear was, I'm going to be a stepmom to a 4-year-old. Are you kidding me? I'm not that motherly. So Jacob, when he was little, he always wanted to play with dinosaurs, and he'd be like, "You be the Brontosaurus, you hide over here." And I'm like, "This is so ridiculous." I didn't know if I would be good at that. And so when Michael and I got together, I'm like, I don't know if I can do that. But it's kind of the same as with the resume. I could try it for a while. He's kind of cute. Like I'm a pretty good Brontosaurus, by the way. I'm okay to get eaten by a T-Rex. So like I learned that I had to lose that. It was hard for me to learn to lose. I'm like, what do you mean I lose? So I think life will bring you all kinds of things that you're uncomfortable about. So it's about taking that chance and, knowing what you bring to that table. So to me, it was like, I'm going to bring, this stability to him of a different point of view, and I'm just going to love him, and I'm going to see if that's enough. And, he's 21. We get along pretty well. I think it worked out.
Yeah, I would say the fear, it's continuum. I would say that recently with my new job, I guess it's 6 months, so it's pretty fresh. I went through the same level of fear, sweaty fear that you're when you're interviewing again for the first time. It was the first time I quit a job. So that was another type of fear that I've never experienced. How do you communicate this to your manager? Do not burn bridges. Like, what does that mean? So a lot of exploration on how to do that in a professional and respectful way. That was a new type of fear. Starting this job was terrifying for me. I was like, I felt confident. I have like 7 years of experience. I got this. Turns out that I show up and there's so much more to learn that I feel uncomfortable in a good way. I'm like learning, but like being open to that level of uncomfort, it's what gets me going every day. I would say that at this point, it's like the most focus I felt in a job in a long time, just because I'm like ignited to learn. So I think that stems from the fear that I want to keep up with the pace. I want to do the best that I can, but I wouldn't take fear as something wrong, but like something exciting at the same time, because you're going to get something out of it. With your first job, yes, I think it's all about willingness. When I showed up to, my first day at work, I was really excited because I was given that opportunity to begin with, like to be part of that team. So I want to establish good relationships. I want to make sure that I'm learning as fast as I can in order to like go. So I don't think it goes away. I think as you're adapting to new opportunities, new places, that just is something that's an indicator that you're doing something different, and that it's just gonna take time for you to like adjust as needed. Just again, be open to that, to change in general. So, yeah.
I think I'll add one more comment. I think it's really important to cut yourself some slack too. Your seniors and maybe seniors in college, up till now, your life has been really regimented, preschool, kindergarten, elementary school, middle school, high school, college. And a lot of people get caught in a trap and they're like, well, I'll just go to grad school. That seems like, woo, I know how this works. I don't think you should do that. I think you should think very seriously about whether grad school is right for you as someone who went to grad school. And so I think you just need to cut yourself with some slack. This is something that's new. Like it can be scary. It can be very uncomfortable. And you'll get better at being uncomfortable. This is the first time that things are really changing for you in a long time in terms of structure, in terms of what your day looks like, in terms of what you are responsible for versus what other people are responsible for. It's a lot, yeah.
And it's fun.
It is fun. Yes, question.
So I have a question about how do you balance work with your femininity? Because, the workplace in general was built for men, or before probably, now we are in another time, but still we are women, right? And so how do you use your femininity skills as an strength in the workplace?
Yes, I'll just repeat the question. The question was how do you use your femininity or be your true self that in the workplace that might be designed or coded for men?
I think that's a super great question, and I do think it's all of us have been in very male-dominated fields. You are, and IT has always historically been, and quite frankly, it still is very much that way. To me, it's about not hiding behind what is our strength, and so organization, empathy, building people, those things are really important in the workplace, and so. That's a strength of a lot of women, and I'm going to stress the one on empathy, right? So working on a hard project means that people are going to work long hours, they're going to have difficult situations. Often, a woman on that team brings that empathy to keep people moving forward. They understand teamwork, they understand the value of bringing people together, and so I think you want to play to your strengths. So I've heard people say women don't always take the notes in a meeting because that's a woman's job. That's just like, it's an administrative job. I don't know, we're really good at it. Have you ever seen notes from a guy that are good? So I don't think it's bad to do the things and play to your strength, right? So I was a project manager for a really long time because organization and project management, I think, is a strength of a lot of women. But you learn a lot by being in those positions, and then it gave me the opportunity to take that learning and apply it to something else to become more technical as we go.
I think that's a great answer. I'm going to add, yeah, staying true to yourself is really important. I would say that, I mean, something that I found is that other women colleagues were good at like team building. You know, I noticed that at least with my male colleagues, yeah, like they're all fun and like we'll not take notes and just go about their days thinking that they can take new roles, yes. But I think like with my women colleagues, I think we have prioritized how to ensure that we're cohesive, that we're able to work as one. And that's helped me, at least in environments like Antarctica, for example, when I had my other woman colleague. That's something we prioritized just in order that we were all on the same page, and that brings in the empathy component to it. On the other side of the coin, though, I would say that it's not easy. I mean, when you're like the only woman on a team that has 50 men, for you to actually be part of that team, you have to stand out a little bit, because I think that at first you're not taken as seriously. You're young, you're a woman, like what are you doing here? You're in construction. So it just gets really challenging, and for you to reach a level in which like others see you apart, it goes back to this empathy and actually openness and like to listen and to actually point out when people are doing things wrong in a way that it's not just to speak, but actually to bring into the table something in which we can improve on together. Not being afraid of saying those things actually helps, and I guess allows you to like cater to those strengths that we just talked about.
Alexa and Siri are both women. I'll just remind you.
Oh, sorry, there was one here, and then we'll come back.
For young professionals entering the workforce, what would you recommend a good way or good ideas to deal with conflict, whether it's from upper administration or from like a peer that you just started working with? A lot of times, school's very independent, but in the workforce, you have to work well with people most of the time.
So the question was about dealing with conflict, both for somebody maybe above you or a peer, and what strategies you had for that.
I think I experienced that a lot in Antarctica. We were working, it was a government project, and I think communication was so crucial. And we adhered to facts at first. I think I didn't pin towards emotions in here, even if it was making me upset that someone said X, Y, Z, and it's based on a project or the environment. I think like being able to have a conversation with that person and staying factual was really critical for me to be able to get the point across. I wasn't saying like you sounded like an ass. It was mostly like, hey, here's why I think what you said was wrong. Here are the facts. And that's just a first step for me. I think, again, just the way you portray yourself when having these conversations is important, because otherwise, if it's not from a place of respect, I don't think it's going to take you anywhere. And that's something that, at least so far, I've been lucky that I haven't encountered a case in which, like, by taking this approach, my coworkers have been not willing to have conversations. I think just open lines of communications are always critical. I think I found that it's something that takes time to build even with managers. Like, I've been able to point out to managers when I think they're doing something that probably is a little off or that they could have been done differently. And being stern and assertive is not something bad to do when having these conversations. Just thinking through how you're going to portray this, what was done wrong is important. Don't just say things to say things,
I think that's great. I also use a lot of asking a question as opposed to a statement. And so it makes it feel not like an attack. It feels defenseless. Did you think in that meeting was the right time to bring up the budget or whatever, right? And so when you ask the question, sometimes they'll tell you then they're talking about why they did what they did. And so facts is really good. I also think you want to make sure it doesn't feel like an attack in any situation. And so a question can always be a great way to do that. Just kind of flip your words into a question. And then people are like, oh, you're just asking me a question. And then it's like, I'm asking you a question about why you were such a jerk, but I did it in a really nice way. And so sometimes that makes the conversation start without a defensive nature.
Great. I think there's one more over here, and then this will be the last one. Yeah.
Okay, so I hope I don't get too much into politics, but Trump just removed an act that banned discrimination in the workplace. I don't know if anyone is aware of that. So what do you think that means for us as women, especially for the younger generation that is coming in the workplace? And how could we prepare for it, like if it becomes like a big deal?
Yeah, so the question was about a recent removal or adjustment to the workplace discrimination policies federally, and why, how we could prepare ourselves. What do you think the outcomes might be from that, and how can we prepare ourselves as women in the workplace?
I have kind of two thoughts on that. The first is I believe most people are good. I'm just going to say that, right? So it doesn't really matter what the law says. I think 90%, 95% of the people that you're going to work with are good humans, and right? So you're going to find mostly good humans in the workplace. That's just I really strongly believe that, and I think they way outnumber the people that are going to be jerks and, kind of leverage any kind of a policy thing. I also think women need to support women. And we do not do this well, ladies. I hate to tell you that, right? Because there's not as many of us sitting at a table, right? So I am the only woman on my leadership table that I sit on. So as a result, there's always this feeling like there's only one slot, so I have to compete against each other. This generation, all of our generations have to support each other. There's no reason that my table that has 11 people on it can't be 10 women and 1 guy. It's fine, right? We need to be supportive of each other. And I think if we continue to support each other and we believe in the goodness of people, that we as humans and as Americans can make this a non-event.
Yeah, I think, I guess it's like on a case basis, right? Because like different companies might take that differently, at least coming from a private sector. I would say, but to your point, like I think if you were to be in a company in which that's starting to impact you directly, organizing with your peers, and in this case, like supporting each other is really critical. And that stems from like forming good relationships from the start. Like if now we get to this point, it's like who do you count on, when this comes and gets through the office? Like I know at least that I would have like a few people that I could reach out to on like what can we do together. So I think acting alone, probably hard, but like if at least you have like a support system in place at your workplace that you could rely on, not necessarily, I'm not talking about HR, I'm just talking about like your peers, like just form those good relationships to be prepared when something of this nature, impacts your workplace.
Great. I think we're right out of time. So for those students that are joining us tomorrow, make sure you arrive sometime between 8:30 and 8:45. There will be coffee and breakfast. We just need to make sure everyone has enough time to get checked in so we can start right at 9. So thank you all tonight. And I want to also say special thanks to the audiovisual team. Woo! Who allowed us to live stream to alum tuning in from afar. So thank you all, and let's thank the speakers one more time. We've got things for you. So they're a little trophy.
Thank you. A little trophy.